On the eve of the first presidential debate, a bombshell is about to be dropped on the 2012 race for the White House, because tonight you will hear from Barack Obama like you have never heard from him before. A video has been uncovered from a campaign event in 2007 of then-candidate Obama speaking before an audience of African-American ministers, including the Reverend Jeremiah Wright. Now, the tape was obtained exclusively by the Daily Caller website, but you're about to see it right here on Hannity for the very first time. It contains some of the most divisive class warfare and racially charged rhetoric ever used by Barack Obama. Now, portions of the nearly 40-minute speech can be found online in an edited video shot by the Daily Press newspaper that is based in Hampton, Virginia. However, that version runs only about 9 minutes and omits the most inflammatory comments. It also does not include any references to Reverend Wright. In addition, this event was covered by other media outlets, including the Associated Press and local television stations. But again, the most outrageous comments were completely ignored. This is further proof that the mainstream media has been in the pocket of Barack Obama since the day that he arrived on the national stage. Now, let's take a look at what the left-wing press has been hiding since 2007. Now, we begin with a clip of Senator Obama repeatedly praising the Reverend Jeremiah Wright, who again was in the crowd at Hampton University. Now, keep in mind, by the time this speech was delivered in June of 2007, Reverend Wright was a known quantity in the world of politics. He had already been disinvited to Barack Obama's campaign announcement in Springfield, Illinois, and he had already appeared on Hannity and Combs months earlier as he attempted to defend his controversial views. By the way, his last appearance on TV during that campaign. And yet here's what then Senator Obama said about him then.
And then I've got to give a special shout out to my pastor, the guy who puts up with me, counsels me, listens to my wife complain about me. He's a friend and a great leader, not just in Chicago, but all throughout the country. So please, everybody, give an extraordinary welcome to my pastor, Dr. Jeremiah Wright, Jr., friend of the United Church of Christ. Where's he at? There he is. That's him. That's him right there. You're wearing a suit today, right?
Now it gets even worse as candidate Obama then injects a heavy dose of racially charged rhetoric into his remarks. Speaking about Hurricane Katrina, he goes off script and he claims that the victims of that storm were ignored by the government. On the other hand, 9/11 survivors and those impacted by Hurricane Andrew, they received endless government assistance. Watch this.
I just want to give you one example because this really steams me up. This isn't in the prepared remarks. Down in New Orleans, where they still have not rebuilt 20 months later, there's a law, federal law, when you get reconstruction money from the federal government called the Stafford Act. And basically it says when you get federal money, you've got to give a 10% match. The local government's got to come up with 10%. Every $10 federal government comes up with, local government's got to give $1. Now, here's the thing. When 9/11 happened in New York City, they waived the Stafford Act, said this is too serious a problem. We can't expect New York City to rebuild on its own. Forget that dollar you got to put in. Well, here's $10. And that was the right thing to do. When Hurricane Andrew struck in Florida, people said, look at this devastation. We don't expect you to come up with your own money. Here's the money to rebuild. We're not going to wait for you to scratch it together because you're part of the American family. What's happening down in New Orleans? Where's your dollar? Where's your Stafford Act money? Makes no sense. Tells me the bullet hasn't been taken out. Tells me that somehow the people down in New Orleans, they don't care about as much.
Now, this notion that the government is turning its back on African-American communities while doing all it can for predominantly white areas is repeated throughout the speech. Look at this.
And that's why we need additional federal public transportation dollars flowing to the highest need communities. We don't need to build more highways out in the suburbs if we have people in the cities right now who want to work but have no way to get into those jobs. We've got to help connect them to the jobs that exist. We should be investing in minority-owned businesses in our neighborhoods so people don't have to travel for miles away.
Now, this is what so-called unbiased journalists have been trying to hide for years. It is a glimpse into the mind of the real Barack Obama, and it's one that all Americans need to pay close attention to. Joining me now to talk about this video is the man who broke the story, Tucker Carlson from the Daily Caller. Tucker, welcome on board. It's pretty explosive stuff, and we've got more that we're going to get to here. Let's backtrack here. This video was released, or at least, 9 minutes of it was, and a prepared text was released, but not the ad-libbed remarks by the president, which are the most controversial. It never got reported on, correct?
That's exactly right. This was covered at the time. There were reporters in the room. I had a show at the time on another channel, and I covered the remarks that were released. But it turned out that most of the print reporters, maybe all of them writing on this story, were writing from the prepared remarks given to them by the Obama campaign. And so you saw people like Andrew Sullivan, the blogger, claim in his story that he was releasing a transcript of Obama's speech. But it wasn't a transcript. These were, again, prepared remarks approved and released by the Obama campaign. And again in this speech, you can sit and read the remarks against the actual speech, and you'll see that Obama goes off script repeatedly and ad-libs and says things that we can't find him saying to any other audience during the course of this campaign.
Do you know?
Remarkable thing.
Yeah, but there's a couple of things. As you watch the speech, one thing just stands out at you. That, and this is a common phenomenon. Al Gore, Republicans have the wrong agenda for African Americans. They don't even want to count you in the census, he said before a predominantly African American audience. Hillary Clinton did the same thing. Do you notice a change in the way he delivers the speech before a predominantly African American audience?
Well, the accent, let me just be totally clear, and anyone who just watched it and who's seen Obama speak in public over the last 10 years will note this accent is absurd. This is not the way Obama talks. At least it's not the way he's talked in the dozens, the scores of speeches I've watched him give or public appearances I've seen him make. This is a put-on. This is phony. That's the issue one. Second issue is he is telling a predominantly black audience something very clear. The federal government doesn't like you because you are black. That's a demagogic thing to say. That's a divisive thing. That's what he's saying. They don't like you because they are black. That is the theme of the speech from front to back, from beginning to end. They don't like you because of your skin color. And that is a shockingly, that's a nasty thing to say. It's a divisive thing to say. It's a demagogic thing to say. And in the case of Katrina, it's an untrue thing to say. At the moment he uttered those words, you're getting shortchanged in Katrina reconstruction funds. The administration, the government had pledged $110 billion to the Gulf. 2 weeks before this speech, the Bush administration gave the Gulf, the Katrina-affected areas, $7 billion with no strings attached. He was a sitting senator. He knew that, and he said this anyway to that audience. And I think that's a shocking thing.
So he's saying there that they don't care as much about you, Katrina, but they cared about people after 9/11. They took care of people after Hurricane Andrew. Then he says, we don't need to build more highways out in the suburbs. We should be investing in minority-owned businesses in our neighborhoods. I thought this wasn't red America, blue America, but the United States of America. So is he using the word suburbs to suggest white communities?
Okay, this is not a dog whistle. This is a dog siren. These are appeals to racial solidarity. And a few minutes before that, he said, our people, our young people, should have gotten the construction jobs to rebuild after Katrina, but instead they went to Halliburton. Right? So look, he's making a very clear case, again, on the basis of his racial solidarity with this audience, that they are getting shafted by a racist federal government. All right. And by the way, unless you can provide evidence that that's true, unless you can nail down factually that that's true, you should not say things like that, because it's dangerous to say things like that.